Now, I wanted to make more Halloween content, and I thought back to a very famous cover. However, it's not famous for the right reasons, and that is Superman's Girlfriend issue 1 from 1958. Yes, it's issue 1 of a series that is known to be the embodiment of the Silver Age. And while I think that this issue is probably more of the Golden Age type of storytelling, due to the fact that it is, in my opinion, not as silly as Silver Age comics, and also this is only the start of the Silver Age, it is still, in my opinion, just ridiculous. This issue, like the cover says, is all about Lois Lane becoming a witch, which is actually the 8th story of this issue, despite being on the cover. So, despite being the cover story, it's weirdly the last story, nor does she actually look like this in the actual issue. So, in other words, it's kind of clickbait. And also, I thought this would be very appropriate due to the fact that Hocus Pocus 2 just recently came out. This story starts with Lois Lane reporting on a soon-to-be-open museum where they have, for some unknown reason, an entire section devoted to witches. Not Salem, not even the occult, and it's not even about artifacts. It's literally about witches. This is meant to be a history museum, and one of the biggest sections of the museum is dedicated to witchcraft, which they themselves even say in the story is potentially make-believe. So why is it have such a huge section of the museum if it's make-believe? Now, we, of course, as the readers, know it's not make-believe because there's magical characters in the DC universe. But the people at the museum believe it to be make-believe. Therefore, why do you have an entire section just to witches? I am very, very confused. While she's reporting, she ended up dropping a mirror compact, which of course makes Lois joke about how there's 7 years of bad luck. Only for it to turn out that to be true, as she's all of a sudden in a lab. I don't understand this story's pacing, but just go with it, because she's randomly in a lab now, where she breathes in the fumes of some weird age-reducing serum, which she finds to just say it smells funny. She doesn't question why there's a lab. Yeah, and I have some questions of my own. Why is there a lab? Is this lab a part of the museum? Because from the narrator's text, it doesn't seem to be the case, implying she went to this lab on a separate occasion. But why is she at a lab? Also, the narrator refers to this lab as if she has been here multiple times, almost as if it's like a home, as it refers to it as going back to the lab. But what do you mean back to the lab? We've never seen this lab before. It's not Star Labs, nor does it seem to be a part of the museum, so why is she at the lab? She's not reporting on anything either. Did she just randomly walk into a scientific laboratory and just decide, hey, I want to walk around? It's not really explained why she's now in a laboratory. Maybe I'm ranting for too long about this, but I'm really, really confused. Anyways, Lois goes back home working on her typewriter, only to find out that she's now all of a sudden all old and wrinkly, which means she's a witch. She leaves her home, coming to the conclusion it was because she broke the mirror, not because she breathed into some sketchy fumes. Lois will wander in the street as an old woman runs into Superman, who doesn't know who she's Lois. Therefore, he just leaves her in the middle of the street after telling her there's escaped prisoners around these areas, which, in my opinion, makes Superman come across like he doesn't care about this old woman because he doesn't even try to save her life. Instead, he just leaves her there. Lois, anyways, of course, runs into these criminals because it's a Lois Lane comic, and they light fire at her. But by saying the magic words Hicks, Hoax, Hex, it somehow prevents them from shooting her? I'm not entirely sure when she learned how to cast magic, or even if she knew she had magic, because all she knew is that she was now old. This could have been just the fact that she aged somehow quickly from breaking a mirror. I don't understand the logic of that, but I also don't understand the logic of breaking a mirror and becoming a witch either. So yet again, I think I would argue being older and not a witch makes a lot more sense. But for some unknown reason, Lois all of a sudden knows she has magic and knows how to use it. Well, I guess that kind of makes sense when you think about it, because she went to the Museum of Witchcraft. So perhaps she learned how to, use witchcraft. But still, I feel as if Lois wouldn't have just automatically knew how to use her magical powers. After the night, Lois is back to her normal self. But once again, she turns into a witch just as her neighbor is trying to come into her house, which for some unknown reason doesn't seem like as if he's knocking, it seems as if he's just randomly bursting in. But she is taking a broom and flies out the window. I don't know why she just doesn't say, I'm not exactly, up for company, but no, she takes a broom and flies out the window. Lois is now being corrupted by this magic because reasons, and decides to just break into a military base and learn their secrets about space travel in order to report. I have some questions. Lois, you're gonna get arrested, first off. Second off, how did you know where this military base was? Because she refers to it as a secret military base. Third off, why? Why? Because the fact that she is reporting on this, secret military base, I feel as if would make it come across as very obvious that she is the one who broke in. Anyway, she reports the story and now feels bad over how she got it. But not enough to take back the story. Also, she shouldn't have proof, because if she did have proof, then they would have known she broke into a military base. In fact, writing the story at all, I feel like, would get a lot of unwanted attention. Anyway, she just goes and does it again. Again and again and again, using her powers to seemingly outscoop Clark Kent, which she claims she feels bad about, yet she keeps on doing it. So, is the magic corrupting her? Because it's implied it is. But I don't buy it. Because for some unknown reason, she claims she feels bad. And in all honesty, I feel as if for this era of Lois Lane from the Silver Age, this honestly is not out of character for her. Of course, modern day Lois would never do such a thing, breaking into military labs. Well, unless, like an alien's being held hostage there, which would be in character for her then. But it's just really weird that I don't really believe that she's being corrupted by this magic. It just really feels like Lois is taking control of the magic and using it for her own work purposes without considering the idea that maybe she shouldn't. Superman discovers that the reason why she got these powers is because of the serum, which I feel like was super obvious. And all done. Honestly, the story could have been a lot more fun. It wasn't very Halloweeny for a Halloween story. It also seemed to have a very odd agenda against any woman older than 20s, with using the term hag to describe anyone who's slightly older than Lois Lane. Of course, it could just be poor aging, but still, they constantly remind you over and over and over again that Lois Lane is no longer as attractive as she once was. Lines and thought bubbles that could have instead been used to develop the story, and perhaps Lois' own emotions about changing, were instead used for Superman, Lois Lane, and random civilians to refer to her as a hag. Which is just really weird. Because instead of developing the story, they just constantly insult Lois' appearance as a witch. And nor do they ever call it the fact that she is practically committing terrorism. But instead, the reason why they reverse it is because they feel like Lois is too ugly. That just doesn't come across very nice. Of course, like I said, it's poor aging, but it is obviously distracting. And I feel as if people even back then would have probably been like, don't you think this is a little too far? But of course, opinions always vary. But still, I feel as if this is a really, really bad message. Also, speaking about witches, I'm curious, what did you guys think of the new Hocus Pocus movie? Personally, I thought it was really good. Maybe not as good as the original, but I definitely enjoyed it. And I thought they definitely recreated the magic of what the original was. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.